Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Thursday webinar. Thank you for attending. So, as you know, on our social media channel, we have got a guest speaker come along today, and I will just hand over to him shortly. But please remember, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, give us a like, give us a love, and give us a share. Spread the word. So I'm going to hand over to Daryl. We've got a focus this week on University Hospital in Plymouth. Many of you nurses have already applied and are coming through University Hospital Plymouth. So we've got guest speaker Darryl Newman and Cindy, who is our senior theatre matron, who's going to talk to you about working in Plymouth. So over to you, Daryl.
Thank you, Carly. So, yeah, good morning to you all. So, like Carly said, I down in Plymouth, and we'll talk about that in a minute when I go into my presentation. I'm an emergency care nurse by profession, but currently doing the International Recruitment Lead for University Hospitals Plymouth. I'm going to talk about Plymouth Hospitals, a little bit about theatres, and then at the end of that presentation, I'm going to hand over to Cindy, who can then give you a little bit more details about theatres and the way forward with theatres. Okay, so Laura, if we can go into the presentation, that'd be brilliant. Keep fingers crossed it works. Okay, so that's one of our cohorts there in our OSCE training suite on the front cover. But if we go to the first slide, I'll give you a bit of background about where we are in the UK. Okay, so this is the United Kingdom, as you can quite clearly see, made up of various countries, of which England has a peninsula. And if we do one click, hopefully the Southwest Peninsula will come up and you'll see roughly where we are. So we're sort of in the middle of the Southwest Peninsula, about 250 miles away by road from London. That's depending on which route you take, because there's various routes. It's largely a rural location with very few large urban populations. It's situated in a county called Devon, with Cornwall on the end of it, which is where Penzance is. There's a population of round about 258,000 people live in Plymouth, and the next big city in Devon area is Exeter, and there's about 123,400. The region does vary in population numbers throughout the year because Devon and Cornwall are both really big tourist locations for the UK. Plymouth offers an outstanding quality of life. It's got fantastic sea resources, beaches. It's got a place called Dartmoor National Park, which is big open moorland. So there's plenty of activities that you can go and do. Most of Plymouth, or about 2/3 of it, are surrounded by water, which makes it quite a unique location. And that has resulted in us hosting a lot of internationally recognised events, such as the Rolex Fastnet Race, Sail GP. They also do the British Firework Championships here. They have lots of bands come, and there's also an Ocean City Blues and Jazz Festival that's held regularly. Other activities that you can go and see are things like Dartmoor Zoo, which is just down the road, and that is what they based the film on, called We Brought a Zoo. There's also places out on Dartmoor where you can go and visit, where they've shot various films, including a film called Warhorse. We've got a national marine aquarium. We've got the Mayflower Steps, which are where the Pilgrim Fathers sailed to America. And we've got the largest naval dockyard in Europe, But we also have our very own ferry terminal, which means you can get across to places like France and Spain if you want to travel further afield than the UK. Okay, go to the next slide. Yep. Okay, so the hospital itself. Hospital employs around about 6,500 staff working across 350 different roles. Plus there are hundreds of volunteers working throughout. It is the largest teaching hospital in the Southwest Peninsula, and it is a major trauma centre. Okay, so major trauma centres are regional centres that take in the big trauma cases from that area that it covers. We will cover the whole of the area we cover a little bit later in this presentation. Okay. We are passionate about the staff and the volunteers that work for us, and we do regular staff surveys with some of the feedback, as you can see on this slide, where staff feel like it's a good place to work. They feel that patient care is #1 priority. They feel supported by their line management, and they feel that we invest in health and well-being of our staff. Because of that, we've been rated as being within the top 20% of trusts, which is good news. There are lots of staff benefits you can get. There's things like a nursery just off site that can be accessed. There's a health and wellbeing centre. The chief executive engages with staff regularly. Obviously, her tea sessions that she used to do have been postponed temporarily due to COVID restrictions, but I'm sure she's keen to sort that out again. We provide good mentoring, support and shadow opportunities within departments. And obviously, we've got our international recruitment programme, which I'll talk about again in a bit. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the hospital itself has over 1,000 inpatient beds, of which 41 are for children, and they are situated on the top floor of the hospital. There's 167 day case beds, and there are around 1,800 outpatient clinics and 336 community clinics held each week. They've got high dependency in intensive care units for both general and neuro patients, and cardiac critical care units and cardiothoracic services. We provide acute and community maternity services. I'm sure Cindy will cover this in more in depth with her slide later, where we run 32 operating theatres currently and have 36 inpatient wards. And we've got full diagnostic equipment throughout the hospital, and it operates 7 days a week. We also have, which is quite unique for a hospital, the Royal Eye Infirmary attached to it. Okay, like I said, we are the main trauma centre for the Southwest Peninsula. So we have emergency department, which just had funding to expand. Again, I'm going to show you a video later on that shows you the plans for the hospital, because it is an expanding hospital currently. Okay, next slide. Okay, so on this slide, you can see the Southwest Peninsula. The blue circle is where we cover for the region, the hospital's footfall, okay, generally for most services, because there are hospitals at Treliske down in Cornwall and Exeter, Torbay, North Devon cover other services in their regions. However, the major trauma centre, we've not managed to capture everything, covers everything in that red circle and slightly beyond, including a place called the Isles of Scilly. If we just click it one more time. Okay, we also provide telephone service, because we can't quite get there, to the British Antarctic Survey. Okay, it's a bit of a long distance to get down to the Arctic, but we're also providing services to them. and we've got close connections with them and various organisations associated with them. And we've also provided medical cover and support to the Fastnet race in the past. Okay, next slide. Okay, like I said, Major Trauma Centre is obviously keen to my heart being an emergency care nurse, but it does cover a large area, and it does sort of drive some of the services that we provide, and obviously links in well to theatres, with the emergency theatres often being called upon to step up and man themselves quite quickly. And we've had a scenario quite recently where that's been done. Okay, it is a specialist hospital in major trauma. Okay, oh, we clicked off. It's all right. But we also cover, like I said before, other specialisations and other sites apart from the main site at Derriford. So there's the Royal Infirmary, which is on site and attached to the hospital. We've got various minor injury units as satellite units from the hospital. One is nearer the centre of town, is becoming an urgent treatment centre, and the other two minor injury units are out in more rural locations. There's a child development centre down at the Scott Business Park, which is towards town. There's a dialysis unit, which is out slightly further north of the city than the hospital is. And out in that location, or near that location, is a education centre where a lot of our clinical training takes place. It's also the Radiology Academy, which is down the road, which is quite unique. It was purpose-built and is used for all sorts of things, apart from obviously radiology training, but I believe it's the only one of its type in the UK currently. We have links as well to the universities, particularly Plymouth University for healthcare training, and also Exeter University and the University of West of England up in Bristol. There's also doctor's training happens at the Peninsula Medical School, which is almost co-located on site to the hospital as well. Okay. Right, future hospital plans. There has been significant negotiating to get funds to expand the hospital, and we've recently been given the go-ahead to expand the emergency department, but within the projection and forecast of where we're going to take Derriford Hospital, they also secured funding for various other projects. We were lucky to get that. There were 20 trusts were shortlisted across the UK, 4 in total within Devon and Cornwall, of which Plymouth was one, North Devon and Torbay were the other 2, and the other one is in Cornwall. Like I said, it's a new urgent and emergency care centre. There's going to be improvements to the wards and increased numbers and improved operating theatres. And there's also going to be an expansion of the interventional radiology department. Go to the next slide. Okay, we're hopefully going to see a video which will sort of show to you the future hospital plans. Video's not coming up.
Sorry.
It's all right. Yeah, we could play from there.
There's no sound.
Gone.
Sorry, give me a second.
It's all right. Okay.
Stop sharing. Let's share.
That's all right.
Okay.
So obviously set up. So the video is obviously a computer generated prediction of how it's all going to look. A lot of this is going to attach to the current hospital.
Right, I think we're ready.
Yep, let's go for it. Okay, hopefully that demonstrates to you what the future of the hospital is, potentially over the next 5 to 10 years, including particularly the theatre area, which all looks great and very nice. And hopefully we manage to achieve that, which I'm sure we will. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about now is sort of what to expect if you do decide to come to Plymouth, to give you an idea of what we're going to be offering to do for you. So obviously you're going to go and continue through the Devon International Recruitment Hub and have a successful application to the University Hospitals Plymouth, at which point you'll arrive in the UK and probably self-isolate either in a government hotel if you're from a red country, or if you're from an amber, in our own accommodation. At some stage, depending on numbers coming into the UK, you'll either be met at the airport if you're coming directly to our accommodation, or if you're going into a hotel and it's only 1 or 2 of you coming down, we meet you at the accommodation. But the team will come and meet you, and that's normally myself and Josh, who does a lot of my admin. Okay, and we'll welcome you into the UK, travel with you, bring you to Plymouth, get you settled into the accommodation. I've got some pictures of that on the next slide in a minute. We then do a 2-week orientation to Plymouth. 2-week orientation program to Plymouth, where we give you some information about living in the UK, take you around Plymouth city centre, point out some important places, show you where some of the international shops are to buy food, etc. Talk to you about churches, mosques, synagogues, anything like that you want to know, places of interest to go and visit, get your biometric permits from the post office. If you need to go and report to the police station, as some people's visas state, we'll show you where that is, and all the necessary things you need to do so that you can start settling here. Okay. On completion of the 2-week program, you'll then do 3 weeks of OSCE training. We have at a different location to the hospital, another hospital called Mount Gould, where we've got it set up for OSCE training with a designated full-time OSCE trainer called Jane, and we've currently on secondment got a lady called Jovi, who's on the 2nd cohort we took back in 2019. She's obviously an international nurse who's been through the same processes that you will, and is now supporting through OSCE training. And hopefully, if we get the funding, she'll be a more permanent fixture. Okay. At the end of the OSCE training, we try and get you through your exam, should I say, not through it, because you're all going to pass first time, within a week of completing that training. You then get your PIN number, and then you'll be ready to practice as a UK registered nurse, at which point we will get you a mentor and also put you through a preceptorship program so you can adjust properly into UK nursing. Okay, next slide. So this is the interior of our accommodation that we put you in. You get 8 weeks in this. It's called Belgrave. It is just off a place called Mutley Plain, which isn't too far from town, the city centre. It's within walking distance. It is right on the bus route for most of the buses that will take you straight up to Derriford Hospital. So getting around and getting from the accommodation is going to be really easy. Where we do our OSCE training and induction, that's at Mount Gould, and that is probably about a 10-minute walk as well. Okay, as you can see, they're ensuite rooms as well. So, okay, this gives you a rough idea of where things are. So at the top, red cross just under the word locations is where the hospital is. Further down, there's a house just above the word that says Mutley. That's where your accommodation block is. And then there's a little smiley face that I've put on as well, and that's Mount Gould, which is where I'm sat today. And there's an OSCE training session going on next door to me currently. And then where the word Plymouth is, that's where the train station is, and just below that is where the city centre is. Okay. Next slide. Like I say, OSCE training is delivered by a designated OSCE trainer, Jane and Jovi now, but we also have other clinical educators come in from the trust. Clinical educators are across every clinical area, including theatres, which they've got quite a big team in, and they come down and help support training. So there's every chance that your clinical educator for the area you go and work in will come and you will meet them prior to starting on the wards. Okay, next slide. Okay, right. I'm not going to try and cuff my way through this. I'm going to stitch Cindy up now and get her to talk about theatres, but I put together the information she gave me so you can read through that as she talks.
So good morning, my name's Cindy Mcconachie. I'm a senior matron for Theatres and Anaesthetics at Plymouth Hospital. I've been that for about the last 11 years, and I'm very proud of the area that I'm here to talk about today. My reason for wanting to come and talk to you all was actually to promote the area as a very great place to work. I've put together some information about the actual area, and I'm looking to do some targeted recruitment, which I essentially looking for people that would want to come and work within theatres, maybe anaesthetics or our recovery areas. We've got currently we've got 32 theatres, and we have within that there are 6 recovery areas. Due to the size of the hospital, they're not co-located. They're located over a number of floors. And because of the recent pandemic, we're currently looking to increase the number of theatres we've got to increase the operating. Because we're a tertiary hospital, we've got a number of we've got all the specialities within that you would expect to see in a big hospital. Daryl has already alluded to the fact we're a trauma centre, so we do a lot of elective, but we also do a substantial amount of emergency activity, and we provide a 24-hour service for all the specialities as an emergency, and these are based in different areas. The current plan is to move from the 32 theatres that we currently have to 42 theatres over a period of 3 years, and you've seen the plan for part of that, which would be the 5 theatres, including 2 IR theatres. So those will be absolutely brand spanking new and will look very lovely, built to all the recent specifications. So they're very big theatres. We've got a range of theatres varying in age. We've got modular theatres. We've got the theatres that are known as vanguard theatres, which are actually theatres that you might see all over the world and are usually brought in a modular system as a temporary basis, some of which become permanent. We've just taken on 2 additional modular theatres with a plan to have a further 3 in April and then a further 2 in September of next year. So I need to increase the workforce quite significantly and quite rapidly. As it says within the slide, actually we cover all specialities and we provide the emergency service for cardiothoracic, vascular and neurosurgery. We also offer a robotic service, which is probably about 3 to 4 years into being in place, and we hope to extend that and have a whole robot suite and purchase a second robot. So that's quite innovative. There's a transplant service that is provided in and out of hours also. There's a small paediatric unit which is currently only 2 theatres. However, we've just got permission to extend that to a 3rd theatre, and the really exciting thing for us is we're about to embark on cleft palate surgery, of which within the Plymouth area, within the region, the peninsula, actually there's quite a high demand, and services were centralised nationally some years ago, but unfortunately because of a variety of reasons can't meet the demand, and we've been identified as a centre to take that forward. We've got a dedicated perioperative education team that I'm extremely proud of. There are 5 members of that team and we continue to develop. We have a robust education programme. Every member of staff will come in, every member of staff comes in, takes part in the programme from day one, and they undertake the foundations programme. That's whether you're experienced as a theatre practitioner or not, because we expect you to learn the standards that we require within our trust. And during that programme, you're also assessed as competent in those skills. We're currently developing a programme for advanced practice, which I'm looking forward to, and also about how we develop our senior team. So this is the management team. So within the area, there's opportunities for development. I'm really proud to say that some of the international recruits that we've already taken are already holding senior positions. So they're team leaders within the area with plans to go into matron posts later on when they become available. So they have ambition, and we're really proud of what they've done and the quality of how they work. That's probably it for me. Thank you, Daryl. I can't think of anything else.
That's fine. Thank you, Cindy. So hopefully that gives you all an idea about Plymouth, Derriford Hospital, or the University Hospitals Plymouth, should I say, and what it would be like in theatres with the way ahead for the future. Exciting times for us down here, so I'm sure you'd appreciate. If anyone's got any questions, please feel free.
That's brilliant. Thank you both, Cindy and Daryl. That was really great presentation, and certainly puts Plymouth in the spotlight there. I mean, the accommodation just looks incredible. It makes me want to come and work in Plymouth. You've got a lot to offer, and I know that you've been recruiting international nurses for a very long time, so you've got a well-established support package for these nurses when they do arrive. I didn't know if you'd be able just to briefly talk about the sort of the existing international workforce that you've got at Plymouth.
Yes, so since 2019 we've probably, out of nurses alone, taken about 224, I think it is, the last count. Nationality wise, they tend to be either from India, Philippines or Africa. The current cohort going through doing their OSCE training today is a mixture of all 3 of those areas. They're fully integrated across medical, surgical wards. We've got some going into the emergency department. Like Cindy said, some have already gone to theatres. We've got some going into critical care or in critical care currently. So fully integrated within the hospital. Like I said, there's plenty of opportunity to, once you've got your PIN, advance to where you want to go, exactly the same as any UK registered and trained nurse. So once you've got that PIN number, there is absolutely no difference between you or me, so to speak. As is evident by the fact that Jovi has now got her appointment into the clinical education team, which we're really happy about, and she's loving it. So
thanks, Darren. I think our nurses will find that really inspirational to hear about that career progression at UHP. So I know today, obviously, you've talked about University Hospital Plymouth, and obviously you're having a particular recruitment drive at the moment for theatres. And as we just heard from Cindy, they're looking at expanding their theatres, which I'm guessing is why you need more nurses. But I just wondered if you could talk about the preceptorship programme for our international nurses. So is it a tailored preceptorship programme for international nurses, or is it part of the generic course?
It is slightly tailored. It almost runs parallel to, but there are certain elements that Gary, who runs the preceptorship programme, doesn't cover, just purely because the experience that you will come with. So there's no need to cover those areas, but most of it is just to get you signed off as competent at our trust. So he runs the programme very similar to a normal preceptorship programme, just dropping off a couple of small areas.
And when would they? When do you start the international nurses on the preceptorship programme? Is it once they've got their PIN numbers, or how do you do it?
So, without being awkward, the NMC, providing they pull their finger out and get the pins quickly, then they're able to almost start preceptorship within a few months of getting their registration. The delays come if they haven't got their PIN, because obviously there's certain requirements within the preceptorship programme, for instance, medicine management.
Yeah.
Now we've gone electronic with prescriptions, then they can't do that until they've got that number. So there's a delay, and we put them on the next available one once they've got that.
And how long is your preceptorship course? Is it 9 months or?
I believe Gary can do it all within about 6 months.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
Yeah, I was going to say it does tend to be 6 to 9 months.
Great. Okay. Yeah. No, that's great.
But,
so in terms of sort of when they would start in theatre, Cindy, are you able to give us a rough idea of the sort of the shift patterns that you currently have?
Okay, so for the majority of our theatres, the staff that are full-time work 9.5-hour shifts. We have a dedicated night team, and we also have an on-call team. So for the majority of people coming to work in theatres, we would be expecting to work daytime shifts, which would be from 8 o'clock. And for those that work within the trauma emergency theatre areas, then there is also what is a late shift. So they might start at 11:30, and then we'll work until 9 o'clock. And then we have a dedicated night team that do 9 till 8 o'clock in the morning. And that is the majority of the shifts we have. We have a few people where we've adapted our shifts, so with flexible working contracts, if for instance there's childcare issues. So we do operate a flexible working policy within theatres, which is well used by people who've got family, etc. So I've got children where they have to work around partners or husbands. So sometimes you have people on the 7.5-hour shift. It doesn't fit in as well, to be, if I'm honest. However, we're more keen to have people there that are so that we're able to deliver the care. So it works for us.
That's brilliant.
Works
Thanks,
very well,
Cindy.
actually.
And is that so the sort of 9.5-hour shifts that you run in theatres, is that 7 days a week or mainly Monday to Friday?
It's mainly Monday to Friday. There's certain specialities that will do weekend working, but generally that is only a Saturday, and that is again the same identical shift, that'd be weekends. The advantage of the weekend working, of course, for people is you get the enhanced rate of pay. So there's certain members that don't need to do the perhaps haven't got families, that don't feel they need to be off for children at weekends, and also are trying to make a little bit extra money. So for them, that works for them very nicely. We have quite high use of the NHSP, which is the trust bank system, and so staff get opportunity if they want to work additional hours to cover sickness, or if we're taking on additional activity. So we do occasionally do I'm trying to think of the name of it. We do additional lists, which might be for waiting lists or things like that, and then generally everyone has the opportunity to put their name forward if they want to. They're usually quite popular.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Cindy. And in regards to work picking up those extra shifts on NHSP, so at what point are the international nurses, do you say, right, I'm guessing it will be once they've received their PIN, do you have a period of time where you say focus, consolidate your skills, and at that point you can then start picking up extra NHSP shifts?
Yeah,
I think
generally
it's very
we
dependent.
like.
Go on, Darryl.
I was going to say, generally the advice we're given to the ward nurses, I don't know what Cindy's thoughts for theatres are, but the ward nurses, they had to complete their preceptorship ideally, so they had to concentrate on consolidation. And
for theatres, we're all slightly different to everybody else. We tend to, if they've done the internal theatre competency, the foundations programme, which of course they will, and if they've been signed off as competent in the areas of practice. So the preceptorship programme is more general than what is required for theatre specifically, but it very much meets the tick in the box for them being registered practitioners. Within theatres, we then have our own, if they're able to do it, and what we've got to remember, people come with a host of different experiences. So you could have someone that's incredibly experienced, and so we don't rule out. It's individual for us.
That's wonderful, brilliant. Thank you both. And when a nurse and international nurses arrive in theatre department, are they assigned a mentor or a buddy? I'm not sure what term you use at Plymouth.
So yes, everyone that starts is assigned a buddy. Obviously, as a preceptor, there is whenever we're working a shift or whatever, they are. There's recognition that they're still in their preceptorship, so there is allowance. Allowances is possibly not the right word, but obviously we are aware they're still in their period of training, consolidation, whatever you wish to call it. So definitely a buddy. It's all not where there is someone assigned, as you just said.
Brilliant. And how long do you assign people a supernumerary? Is that until they get their PIN, and then how long after they've got their PIN? I guess I know it depends on individuals. Do you have a rough idea?
It depends on the field that they're going into, which speciality, whether they're new to it or not, obviously. So the complete supernumerary is it sounds really very harsh, is 2 weeks, but what we do recognise in theatre, and that's a trust thing, in theatres we actually think it's between 3 to 6 months for someone to acquire the skill in an area. So there's anyone coming to us, there's no worry that we're going to set them free without them being competent to do it. To work independently, they need to feel confident, and if there's an issue where someone is perhaps taking that little bit longer to grasp something, we've got that great education team that we would offer additional support to if we need to get someone there. It's in our interest to get people from a period of either novice or just new and unfamiliar to the area to that phase where they're feeling comfortable and able to practice independently. It's in our interest to get that expedited, which is why we've invested very strongly on our education team.
That's fantastic, brilliant. Thanks both of you. I don't know if we've had any questions in the chat. Let's have a look. Laura, I don't know if anything's come up.
No, there's nothing.
Okay. That's fine. So thank you both for taking the time to come and speak to our international nurses this morning from UHP. And yeah, I mean, you've really demonstrated what an incredible support package that you give to our international nurse workforce. You know, you're clearly an innovative team, a huge specialist theatre team. I didn't quite realise how big you were in theatres, but obviously you are that specialist centre, aren't you, in terms of cardiothoracics and neuro for the whole of the southwest. So exciting times.
I think what's unusual, Carly, I think what's unusual about us is unlike other big cities, for the vast majority, it's all under one roof. Other hospitals might have an orthopaedic hospital and things like that, so they segregate it out. That's why we seem as big as we are.
No, absolutely. And what an exciting time to join the team, though, Cindy, when you're looking at expanding.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
I'm so proud of the team, and I just think it's just a perfect opportunity for people who want a career in this area, and the fact that we've got already international nurses that are holding leadership roles within theatres is something to celebrate.
Absolutely, and yeah, and that's extremely encouraging for nurses that are going to be applying to you. I'm sorry, I've just had to turn my camera off because it's affecting my Wi-Fi. So you won't be able to see me, but you can hear me. So again, a massive thank you to both of you, obviously the clinicians, for coming along today and taking time out of the day. So international nurses watching, I'm sure you'll have enjoyed that webinar as much as me. Obviously, please send in your CVs to the email that's in the chat. So it's devonir.hub@nhs.net. As we've discussed, University Hospital Plymouth are having invested recruitment drive into their theatres at the moment. If you've joined us late, you will be able to watch this webinar on our YouTube channel, Nursing in Devon, and I know a lot of you will catch up and watch that. So I'm going to gift you back 10 minutes of your day this morning. So go and get some fresh air, or go for a little walk, or grab a coffee. And remember, with our social media pages, give us a like, give us a love, give us a share, spread the word. Stay safe, and we'll see you all again next Thursday. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.